back, my little nightmares. Me, Queen Nightmare, and I'm at my grandma's so I can be like relaxed for a long time. Sorry, I'm itching my leg and my calf. So I'm gonna be finishing the Snarry story today. Also, for a spooky special, I'm gonna be reading a couple of spooky things for a Halloween kind of. Like, you know what? I want spooky. I literally read 3 stories to my second cousin. She's 6, and she wanted scary stories before she went to bed. I read her something I shouldn't have. But she was like, cool. Like, that's it. Like, she's like me, and I hate it because we need only one of me because I'm a piece of shit. So, yeah, let's keep on going. Chapter 32. Harry's POV. I woke up extremely close to Severus. So close that I could feel his warm breath on my face. It's not like I minded it. I actually kind of liked it. Liked being this close to him. I sat up, staring at him while he slept. I watched the rise and fall of his chest. Also, before I continue, people are saying that the addition and like the math in bed, I did not learn that from Sniper Wolf. I actually learned that in grade school. Grade school, I mean around 4th grade. And the reason why I looked back on what I remembered it is because I just asked a friend who went to the same grade school, and I said, do you remember this? And they're like, yeah, a guy in class kept on going around and saying that, and he got suspended for it because of how disgusting it was, apparently. So there, you guys know. Sighing, I got up, decided it was time to go see Hermione and Ron. It was 6:30 a.m., which meant that my 2 best friends were already awake, making sure that their stuff was packed. They had to leave for the train back to their homes in 30 minutes. We could spend some time together. I can walk them to the train station and watch them leave. Yeah, that's what I'll do. I quickly took a parchment quill from a drawer and scribbled a note on it for Severus. Good morning, Sev. I hope you had a great rest. I'm currently spending the last 30 minutes with Hermione and Ron. I'll be back at around 7. Rereading the note, to make sure it was good and all clear, I rested on the sheets in front of Severus. I quickly grabbed my red hoodie and... oh my gosh. You know what? I just noticed why that spelling was weird. I didn't look at the comments for this, but khaki pants. I spelt it, and I didn't know how to spell it. I'd never seen khaki spelled. So, khaki pants from the night before and slipped them on. Noticing neither Sirius or Remus were awake, I stalked away out of the chambers into the Gryffindor common room. The halls were rather quiet, but once I entered the common room, there were crowds of children swarming the main area with their trunks. Everyone watched me as I passed them, moving out of the way. Through the crowd, I spotted the familiar red-headed Weasley and Granger. Sprinting over to them, I dodged all the students swarming the common room. Hermione, Ron! I yelled. The 2 lifted their heads, and their eyes caught mine. Their brown eyes gleamed in the light, and they both had smiles on their faces. Let's go to the forest together, Hermione states through the crowd. I nodded, leading the way outside of the crowded common room. Once I got out of the common room, I stopped and waited for my 2 friends to come out. When I saw the door creak open, I put a smile on my face, greeted my 2 friends. We all walked outside to the lake in silence. We made our trek to the glimmering lake and sat down on the shoreline one by one. We all lie down on the dark, cool sand and looked up at the sky. So we'll see each other again in 2 weeks, right? Yes, Harry, 2 weeks. Oh, I'm going to miss you guys, Hermione cried out. Ron chuckled and hugged Hermione. Ah, all right, it's all right, Hermione. By the way, it's 10:01 at night, so it's the dogs need to go potty before they go to bed. So, also my second cousin should be asleep by now, or she's been awake for the 2 past hours doing nothing. So anyways, let's keep going. You guys will send me owls, right? Yeah, we'll write to you, mate. I smiled to myself, looking down at my wristwatch. It was 6:50 already. Frowning, I got up. All right, well, I have to get back to Severus. You guys should go too. Wouldn't want to be late for the train. Bye, guys. Bye, mate. We all hugged for a little while before walking off to the castle. Hermione and Ron went back to the Gryffindor common room for some last-minute packing, while I took a left turn and went up several stairs to get to the dungeons. I entered the dungeons and opened the heavy door to Severus's chambers. Walking in, I took in an aroma of bacon and eggs. I glanced around the chamber, eyeing the figures who were standing in the kitchen arguing. Sirius, you're going to burn the bacon! Remus, I'm an experienced cook. Now, darling, please back off, just in case I do burn the food. You don't want to get hurt. A loud laugh was heard from Remus. You don't have to treat me like a child, you know. But I care for you like how a father does to his child, Remus. Even more than that, too. Now go wake up Severus for me so we can get started while we wait for Harry. I heard heavy footsteps walking over to the guest room as I entered the kitchen. I glanced around the place. It was a nice beautiful room with a round table big enough for us to serve 4. I looked up at Sirius, who was smiling down at me. He walked over to me and gave me a hug. Morning, cub. I don't know if he's gonna see the mark on his oh wait, no, is it on Severus's neck or Harry's neck? I hope it's in Severus's neck so that it's kind of like, oh, you play it like that, Harry. Like, is Harry top? No, like they're gonna like imagine that. That would be funny. Good morning, Severus. He beckoned me to sit down at the table, and I obeyed. Him and Remus had already set up the table for us, with plates and everything. A minute or so later, I saw Remus and Severus walk into the kitchen. Remus had a face of disappointment and disapproval, while Severus had on a glare. Sirius, do you see this shit? This man is wearing boxers in bed while he's sleeping with our godson. What do you want him to wear? I literally, you want him to wear nothing? I mean, there's an opening, but also you can throw panties aside. Huh? I'm so confused. You already know they did it. Sirius looked over at the infuriated Remus and gave a small laugh. Remus, I'm sure Severus and Harry are mature enough to control their own bodies when they're in the same bed. Besides, it's not like we haven't done the same either. Harry's a grown man now. I watched as Severus smirked, while Remus shook his head once more while walking to the table. He shot a glance and then gave a small smile. Hello, Harry. Morning, Remus. We sat down in silence while we ate our food. Part of me wanted to spark up a conversation. Do they not notice the mark, or is it just me? Are you sure about that, my dude? Part of me wanted to spark up a conversation, but I wasn't motivated to. The vibe in the room was rather gloomy. And no one wanted to talk. I could tell that Severus and Remus weren't morning people, too. So, did you two do anything last night? Well, let me redo that. So, did you two do anything last night? Sirius said, just below a growl. Severus just gave a snort until he scrubbed up his face in disgust. For fuck's sake! Sirius. Nothing happened between Harry and I last night. I glanced at the man in fright as he slammed his fist down on the table, fuming in anger. He quickly got out of the seat and swept away from the table. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have things to do in my room, he said through gritted teeth, exiting the kitchen. I looked down at my plate, shaking my head in disapproval. I was just asking. It's all right, Sirius. Sev's not a morning person. I think I'm gonna check on him. Thanks for breakfast. It was great. I gave him a half-hearted smile as I exited the kitchen, only leaving him and Remus in there together. I slowly walked to the bedroom, which Severus and I had shared the night before. I gently knocked on the door before peeking my head through the opening. Severus, is everything all right? Yes, Harry, I'm fine. He grunted from the bed sheets. I frowned. I could tell something was bothering him. Okay. I closed the... What did I just say? I knew something was bothering him. Sev, what's wrong? Harry, I said, I'm fine. Tell me what the bloody hell is wrong? I'm fine, Harry. Won't you leave me leave me alone for once? Fine then. I closed the door roughly, storming off outside of his chambers. I kept walking without thinking. I was fuming. I had wanted to get away from everyone and everything. I kept speed walking until I reached the lake. I sat down against a tree and reached into my pocket. I pulled out a razor that I haven't used in about 3 months. I frowned, thinking about my life. Do I really want to end it here? After everything I have with Severus? Yes, I do. Severus doesn't even love you anymore after yesterday. He does, but he's having anger issues right now. And you just need to let him live. The adult thing to do is literally leave him alone. And if you're upset too, talk to someone about it. If you have problems like this, it's not true that he doesn't love you anymore. Just to let you know in the future, for anyone. Yes, I do. Severus doesn't love me anymore after yesterday. Yes, I feared it would happen and end this way. I sighed heavily, gripping the razor. I held it right in my arm and shut my eyes. I gently pressed into my skin 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inch. And I slashed. The pain numbed my wrists. I kept doing it over and over again until my whole arm was covered in blood and cuts. I became feeling dizzy. My head was starting to hurt. My vision was going fuzzy. I sat there, thought of Severus, Sirius, Remus, Ron, Hermione. I thought about everyone I'd ever loved in the world. Tears began forming in my eyes as I thought of Severus again. I still loved him, but he obviously didn't even want to talk to me nor see me. He never made eye contact with me at all this morning. He was extremely angry. I shut my eyes, thinking about all my friends and how I had given up on them. I wasn't scared of death. I was just scared of leaving my friends and family behind. I still loved them. but I hated life. Death was just another thing in life to me. What will the world say about this? Harry Potter, the boy who greeted death like an old friend. I collapsed onto the hard roots of the tall tree. I'm actually crying when I know it has a happy ending. But in what way does it have a happy ending? Anyways, tears in my eyes, I thought about my friends once more. Ron and Hermione, Severus, and everyone. I left them. I failed them. I was too late to go back now. I was nearly dead, and I was almost like the only thing I had access to was my mind and brain. My whole body was perfectly numb, and I couldn't move a muscle. Blood was rapidly spilling from my forearm still. Maybe Severus will be happy now. I'm going for a root beer break. Be right back. I'm better, sorry. Yeah, I had a root beer break and dropped my phone. So I guess I feel better. It was too late to go back now. I was nearly dead. I was almost like the only thing I still had access to was my mind and brain. My whole body was perfectly numb. I couldn't move a muscle. Blood was rapidly spilling from my forearm still. Maybe Severus will be happy now. That's all I truly wanted, to see him happy. Maybe he'll be happy after all. Happy. After all, his wish was for me to leave him alone. Maybe now that I'm gone, he will be happier. I sighed, shutting my eyes. I'm sorry. I failed you so soon. You know who I'm gonna think is gonna save him? Voldemort. I haven't seen the next chapter, but Voldemort will be like, bitch, you can't die yet, asshole. Gotta fight you soon. Chapter 33, Harry's POV. I open my eyes to take in the scenery. I'm in a beautiful forest with many illuminating green, healthy trees. At the end of the forest, I saw a bright, blinding light. I saw the light. I saw my mother standing in front of the light. Mother! Yes, this was it. I finally get to die. I can finally see my mother and father again. This was it. I ran up to my mother, tears in my eyes, and latched onto her. Mom, I miss you. Why'd you have to go? I miss you too, Harry. Trust me, I wouldn't go if I didn't have to. I love you. I love you too. I'm sorry I gave up too early. No, baby. It isn't over yet. You can still go back. I want you to go back. Even though you're dead in the real world, you can still be revived. It's not too late yet. Mom, I'm not going back. I hate living. The pain in these chapters, oh my word. Harry, please, do it for me. What will Sev do? Severus loves you. You're the only source of happiness in his life. Besides, your life was too short. I want you to go out and have fun, explore the dangers and risks of life. I want you to go and be happy with Severus and start a family. Tears threatened to spill from my eyes as I made eye contact with the woman. Eye contact with the same green eyes that I had possessed. It was at this moment where I realized how beautiful my eyes actually were. I sighed heavily. Mom is right. I was being a child. Sev just isn't a morning person, and something ticked him off. Besides, I have a mission to do, and I have to avenge my parents and everyone who lost their lives to that no-nosed freak. I took a deep breath and began to speak. Okay, Mom, I'll do it. I'll do it for you and for Dad. I'll go back and live a life with Severus and maybe marry one day. Thank you for everything. I love you. I love you too, Harry Potter. I embraced her for one last time, pulling her in close and memorizing her smell of lilies and flowers. I looked her in the eye one more time before placing a kiss on her cheek, turning back out of the forest. Severus's POV. I stood there pacing the hospital wing in nervousness. In the hospital bed, Harry lay there, dead. I have been crying and yelling at everyone for the past hour. Part of me had believed that it was too late to even revive him. My dumb ass went to look for him about an hour before he ran away. It was my fault. I knew I was the reason for him to kill himself. I wish I didn't have to yell at him. Although I woke up on the wrong side of the bed this morning because of a thought I had that didn't give me the right to let my anger out on the only source of my happiness. I pull over a chair and set it by his hospital bed, scooting closer to him. I watched as the boy was sitting there lifeless. It broke my heart. What if I was too late? After all, it's been 3 whole hours. He's been passed out. Dude, you should sleep for like a day. Maybe 2. So be quiet. Oh, I'm sorry, Harry. I pulled my robes over my face and cried into them. This was all my fault. I always managed to fuck up relationships. Harry's dead because of me. I never even got to apologize for my childish actions. Sighing heavily, I pulled my robes away and grabbed Harry's arm, examining his cuts and bruises. The bruises were still there from the Vernon bitch. The cuts were all over his forearm, about 20 extremely deep ones on his forearm. His forearm was very bloody. Dry blood was covering his whole forearm. I clenched my fist to prevent myself from doing anything. I had a bad habit of punching the wall whenever I got angry. The door opened and footsteps came to the room. Oh gosh. Why start fighting of all days and all times? The door opened and footsteps came into the room. Sirius and Remus. Well, if it isn't Remus and Sirius, came to join the fucking party 3 hours late. This, your best friend's son who's dead. How long did it even take you to think that sink in to your thick-headed skulls? Severus. I don't wish to fucking argue right now, because if I recall correctly, you were the reason for his death. Sirius bellowed. My expression fell. Yes, he was right. I was the reason for his death. No, you weren't. I'm going to say this with all due respect, is that Severus wasn't the one who made him commit suicide. It was his subconscious saying he didn't love him anymore. Dude, you're having your first fight ever chill the fuck out, basically. It happens. Fights happen during a relationship. And he was just angry and not a morning person, and he didn't listen. He was just he was being childish. And if I recall correctly, you and your fucking boyfriend were in the kitchen at the time, which meant that you could have stopped him when he ran off. You didn't even ask where he was going. Remus' expression hardened. Sirius glared hard at me. Sirius glared hard at me. They were both equally very devastated and infuriated. I can't blame them, though. I was the reason for their best friend's son death. Then it's all of our faults. Will you two stop quarreling, please? Remus yelled at the top of his lungs. I shot Sirius a glance of hatred before sitting back down next to the lifeless boy. Why can't you two just get along? Just for the sake of Harry. If he was alive, all he'd ever want for his godfather to approve and actually like his boyfriend. Didn't you see how happy he was yesterday when we were laughing at the dinner table? I thought hard about it. Yes, I hated to admit it, but Remus was right. I shouldn't even be arguing. Was Severus serious at the moment? Okay then. I'm sorry, Sirius. I'm sorry, Severus. Then the door squeaked open, turning to look at the source of footsteps. Jeez, I'm crow. These people, I tell ya, Lily should be paid for this. Damn, Lily, you gotta be paid for this shit. Then the door squeaked open, turning to look at the source of the footsteps. Poppy came into view. I don't think there's any cure for this one, Severus. I've been researching for the past 2 hours. He's gone. My face fell. Nonsense. You're not researching well enough. There has to be a fucking cure. I'll make a potion if I need to. At this point, my heart was beating at an abnormal fast rate. Fast speed. It felt as though it was beating against my ribcage, threatening to jump out of its place. Severus, there is no cure. There's a cure for everything, Poppy. There's no cures for the nonsense this boy gets himself into. I watched the nurse bolted out of the door back into her office. I huffed, staring at the floor. Harry! Remus shouted. Cub? Harry? My head shot up, and I met the eyes of the confused teenage boy. Once he saw me, his frowning face turned into a smile. His eyes were brimmed with red. It was as if he was crying in the forest when he was lifeless. Tears threatened to spill out of my eyes. I jumped up and embraced him with a warm, caring hug. Never do that to me again, you brat. I'm sorry, Severus, he croaked under his breath. Hold on a second. Now I'm all wet. Great. Well, I'm not going to get hot anytime soon. That sounds good. Remus and Sirius both hugged him, and we all talked for a little while before Harry fell asleep again. A minute or so later, Poppy came back in the empty hospital wing. We all told her the news, and she muttered things under her breath. After she said she'd run a check on him and let him go, I excused myself to return to the dungeons. I was in the mood to talk to Poppy as of now. She'd driven me over the edge, and I didn't want to even see her in front of me. And okay, I feel better. I walked into the dungeons and driven me over the edge, and I didn't want to see her in front of me. Even though we were friends and went to Hogwarts together, I still didn't like the way she acted at times. I mean, friends don't always agree. I wasn't in the mood to talk to... Yeah. Got it. I walked into the dungeons and entered my chambers. I went inside the kitchen and made myself some tea. Sitting down on the sofa, I gulped down my tea and lay back in the chair, thinking about Harry. Once he came back, I would give him a well-hearted apology and kiss him. As much as I hated to admit it, I missed the boy way too much. I had thought that he died for 3 hours straight. It was my fault too. If my boyfriend had died because of me, I'd hate myself forever. After all, I already lost one love of my life. I didn't want to lose the other. I loved Harry too much. Harry was special to me, and it feels as though I can't live without him. The door creaked open, and I saw the two figures carrying a hunched Harry together. Set him on the couch right here. I patted the seat next to me, and as Sirius and Remus obeyed, setting the sleeping boy on the red velvet couch. Or cushion, sorry. Harry's POV. I woke up, my forearm burning like hell. That's when I recalled the events. Well, most of them. I only remember cutting myself and bleeding out of my forearm. That's it. Of course, I also remember when my mother when I saw my mother in the forest. Smiling at myself, I sat up. I was in Severus's room, on his sofa. Looking up, I saw Severus. He was talking to two other people, I classified as Remus and Sirius. To my surprise, they were having a civilized conversation, and they seemed to be glad. Severus tilted his head to the side, meeting my eyes. He smiled a warm-hearted, toothy smile as he came closer to me and placed a soft, slow, passionate kiss on my dry lips. Pushing away, he looked over at Sirius and Remus in confusion. I looked over at them too, and they were also giving a kissing session. I cleared my throat loudly, causing the two to pull away, madly blushing. I laughed when I saw the look on Sirius's face. What? You guys were doing it too? Severus chuckled as he continued talking. Deciding I needed a shower, I excused myself and walked over to our room. I walked for a long time before Harry woke up. Harry woke up at about 8. We talked. Sorry, I can read. I think I have a form of dyslexia, because I do switch around a lot of letters. Part of me had thought that he had died again, and he being revived. Sorry. We talked for a long time before Harry woke up. Harry awoke at about 8. Part of me had thought that he had died again, and him being revived was just a bad dream, or it was his ghost or something, though I didn't want to say that in front of Sirius and Remus, as it would have worried them. Gladly, he woke up, though. It was not long before he excused himself and went to shower. A minute or so after Harry went to shower, Dumbledore came in the room while we were all chatting about things. Sirius, Remus, just to let you know, your room is set up in the Gryffindor common room. Since no one is staying there, I thought you'd like to take a trip down memory lane and sleep there for the couple nights you're going to be here. Thank you, Professor Dumbledore, Sirius stated. Once Albus left, we began to talk again. But that didn't last long because, after all, about 10 minutes of chatting, Remus got up. Well, it's getting a bit late. You suppose we should get to bed? Tomorrow's Christmas, after all. Yes, you're right, Remus. I'll see you tomorrow morning, Severus. A moment later, Remus and Sirius bolted out of the door, saying their goodbyes. Deciding I should get to bed, I stripped out of my clothes and left myself in my boxers. Before going to sleep, I opened the drawer that was next to my side of the bed and checked if Harry's Christmas present was there. Once I made sure it was there, I smiled to myself and shut my eyes. I hope he likes it. Aw, so cute. Chapter 34, Severus's POV. Grunting, I woke up and heaved myself off the bed. Noticing Harry wasn't there sleeping next to me, I frowned. Harry, I called out of the empty bedroom. I looked up at the clock. 7:15 a.m. Breakfast in the Great Hall is at 7:30. Where could he be? I heard rustling and the bedroom door opened. Yes? Sorry, I lost you for a second. The 15-year-old laughed as he placed a soft kiss on my lips. Merry Christmas, Sev. Merry Christmas, my love. I kissed him back, biting his lip gently and sucking on the flesh. He moaned slightly into the kiss as I felt his erection slightly being pushed against my thigh. I pulled away, smirking at the frustrated teen. He whimpered at the sudden loss of pleasure. We have breakfast in 15 minutes. None of us has gotten dressed yet. Fine. The two of us put on clothes. Harry slipped on a tight red long sleeve shirt with jeans. I just put on some black long sleeve shirt and black jeans. Before we left, I quickly grabbed Harry's Christmas present and put it in my pocket. Harry and hand in hand, the two of us walked down to the Great Hall. All of the staff was there with Sirius and Remus, and a couple of students. I shot a glare at Neville Longbottom and Draco. It surprised me that Draco was staying here. Maybe his parents had something to do with the Dark Lord. Harry and I sat side by side at the very long table in the middle of the Great Hall. Albus announced his Christmas speech he gave us every year that I barely even listened to. I thought about how I should give Harry his Christmas present. Maybe I would do it at the same time Dumbledore gives out his presents to all of us. Yes, that's what I'll do. I'm going to give each of you your Christmas presents. Albus chimes happily, while he summoned about a dozen well-wrapped presents in a box. He handed them out to everyone. They all opened them. I opened mine, and it was a bottle of fire whiskey. I wanted to smile, but I refrained myself from doing so. Harry had received a picture frame of his mother in her time at Hogwarts, which he took a strong liking to. So once everyone quieted down, I decided it was time for me to give Harry my present. Sweating, I got up out of my seat and took Harry's hand and making him stand and come to me. I have a present for you, Harry. I watched as the boy grew very pink, smiling down at me. I know you're still not the legal age in the wizarding world, so this is my present for you. I took the small object out of my robe pocket and handed it to the boy. It's a promise ring, I believe they call them. So, Harry, I use this as a promise that we will marry one someday. And I'm already claiming you as mine with this ring. And I had a whole speech memorized, but I soon noticed that I'd rather not state it in front of a dozen people. So, do you accept this this promise ring? I glanced at the younger man. Tears were in his eyes, and he was speechless. He simply just nodded and took the ring and slipped it on his ring finger. I embraced the boy in a tight hug and kissed his forehead. Turning around, I saw the whole table had their gaze fixed on us. Mouths were hung open. Sirius and Remus were on the edge of tears. Everyone began clapping. As Harry and I took their seats, people were congratulating us left and right. I looked over at my godson, who was smiling broadly, a gleam in his eye. He caught my eye and gave me a small smile with a thumbs up, to which I surprisingly returned the smile. For the rest of the morning, the dozen of us had a happy and pleasant breakfast. Though it was very quiet, it was also peaceful, and no one talked at all. Everyone began to file out of the great hall and return to their common rooms as Dumbledore wished them all a Merry Christmas. I looked down at Harry, who was smiling broadly about something. I gave him a questioning look. He just kept smiling. Sometimes he really does confuse me. I'm going to go send an owl to Ron and Hermione. I'll be in our room in 15 minutes. I gave a nod, and as I began to walk out, Remus and Sirius brought me aside. Just as I exited the great hall, the two of them called out in unison, "Severus, can we talk?" "Yes, what is it?" Okay. This is serious talking, so it's like, okay, buddy, here we go. Here's the plan. I know we went through this, but we want to congratulate you and Harry on this new chapter of your lives. Even though you aren't married yet, you will be in the near future. I'm not going to interfere with you guys' happiness. I trust you to take good care of Harry. Sirius spoke up first. To be honest, Severus, you're not a bad man, and I apologize for everything we had done to you in our time at Hogwarts, because you guys were a piece of shit. That's me adding on to what Severus would have said. You're a great person, and I trust you around Harry. I wish the best to the two of you in the future. And if you end up having children, know that you can always count on Sirius and I to take care of them if you need time alone. I gave them a nod and a small smile. Shaking both of their hands, I thanked them, and we went our separate ways. Yawning, I entered my dungeon, walking inside my chambers. Okay. Something felt weird, so I was looking at it. I lie down on the bed thinking about Harry. Harry Potter. I've had a sudden liking for the boy since his first year. I didn't know how or why I'd fall for 11-year-old Harry. Not only that, but I also hated him. No, not exactly. I hated loving him, which was why I treated him ever so badly. Ever since I found out about his abusive life at home, I realized how much I related to the boy and wanted to comfort him. Since I had no one there for me when I needed it, I wanted someone to be there for him. Over these last months, I realized that Harry was nothing like his father. He was much more kind, loyal, and just amazing. Yes, they were both equally cute, but if I had to choose, I would pick Harry over James. Harry was an overall sweet and caring boy. Yes, he had a passion of causing trouble, but he doesn't intend to have the trouble that he causes. I sighed, deciding it was better not to think of Harry at this moment, just when I couldn't have him. I walked over to my bedroom, and took my uncomfortable clothes, leaving me in my black boxers. Harry's POV. To say I was overjoyed with having the whole week free with Severus was an understatement. I was really glad to actually get some time off and stop stressing about life for once. Exiting the owler, I began walking back to Severus's chambers. I thought about the letters I sent to Ron and Hermione. They weren't really that important, just Christmas wishes and telling them that Severus gave me a promise ring. Like a regular Tuesday. That's what he's treating it like. So, it's a normal thing to get a promise ring. Oh my. I still had that feeling of butterflies in my stomach when I thought about the moment we had just an hour ago. It was really special to me. I had loved it. If I could relive one moment in my life, it would have to be that one moment. Opening the door to the chambers, I saw Severus sitting on his couch, staring into the fireplace. He was fidgeting with his fingers with his legs crossed. He lifted his head and met my eyes. Once he saw me, he jumped out of his seat and walked over to me and pulled me into a long kiss. Thought you wouldn't come back. How come? I don't know. I thought you must have disliked the proposal. Oh, Sev. I'm always ready for anything that comes my way, especially if things I get to deal with while you're by my side, I said, placing a soft kiss on his long, hooked nose. I went up, sadly. Okay. I love you, Harry. I love you too, Sev. Chapter 35. Time skip. It's now Harry's 7th and final year at Hogwarts. Yes, I skipped nearly 2 years ahead. The date is September 1st, Harry's first day of his 7th year, and it's currently time for the welcoming feast. Severus POV. After not seeing Harry for the nearly 2 months, butterflies arose in my stomach every time I looked at the boy, all the way across the Great Hall. I didn't eat my food at all. In fact, I was extremely nervous. I didn't want to really do what I was about to do right now, but I decided it was time to stop being a brat and act up. Fidgeting with the small item in my pocket, I locked eyes with Elvis, who I hoped he had remembered the plan I had shared with him almost 2 months ago. To my surprise, he nodded and a gleam in his eyes. Getting up and walking in front of the table, he cleared his throat. Can Harry Potter please come up here? I smirked, and I locked eyes with Harry. He gave me a small smile, even though I could tell he was extremely nervous. He was probably curious about what Albus was doing. The boy quickly sped-walked to the front of the room, standing next to Dumbledore. Severus, can you please come up here? I believe you have something to say. Pulling myself up out of my chair, I slowly stalked up to Albus' side next to Harry. Yes, thank you, Albus. The man simply nodded and retreated to his seat in the staff table. Taking a deep breath, I looked down at Harry, who was giving me a confused look. Sweat was threatening to spill over from my forehead. I could tell. I better hurry up if I want to make this quick and not time-consuming. Clearing my throat, I got down on one knee and pulled out a small ruby ring from my robe pocket, holding it in front of the younger man. Harry James Potter, 2 years ago today, we started our relationship. I had always had my eyes on you since your first year. Oh, that doesn't make it any better because that makes it more pedophile-y. Oh, gross. I don't know how to react to that. It kind of sounds bad when oh my gosh, I got woozy. Okay. I had always had my eye, yeah, okay. You were everything I wanted, ranging from your beautiful green eyes to your troublesome characteristics. Ever since I began to get to know you, you touched my heart even more. I knew you were the one. You've really changed my life. Harry Potter, you've made me a happier man and cured me in many ways. The words can't tell. As much as I hate to admit it, you've even taught the true meaning of life. You've showed me what love really is, what being loved really feels like, and you are my first and hopefully last true love. So, Harry, will you marry me? I made eye contact with the green eyes again. They were gleaming and threatening to spill tears. I bit my lip as I took in how hot the boy looked. Yes, I will, Professor. I proudly slipped on the sparkly red ruby on Harry's ring finger and gave him a passionate kiss on the lips. Deciding it was better to keep it quick, I pulled away my hand on Harry's wrist. Turning to look at the crowd of students, I realized that half of the first years their jaws hung wide open, while most of the other students, especially the ladies, were on the edge of tears. To my surprise, the whole crowd was filled with people clapping and hooting enthusiastically. Pulling Harry into another kiss, I whispered in his ear, "And the new chapter in our lives begins here, darling." Ooh, does that sound like a threat to me? Why does that sound like a threat? But then again, I'm a moron. Okay. Announcement. Congratulations, you've reached the end of the story. If you really enjoyed it, do consider reading a new chapter, son of a bitch, which will be the second book in the series. It's not released yet. What is this? Like Harry Potter? The new chapter. Which will be the second book in the series. It is not released yet, but it will be released by November 15th, so be ready. In conclusion, I just want to thank you all for all of the support on my first very ever Snarry. Oh, this is their first? Oh my gosh, it's pretty good. It's really been an honor to write it, and I'm glad so many of you are enjoying it. This story will receive no further updates as it is over. A new chapter will be mainly Harry's 7th year, Severus, and Harry dealing with obstacles in marriage, kids and such, as well as more smut for those of you who are interested in such things. Have a great day. Thank you for reading. You by my side. This is the update. The first chapter of a new chapter is now out for you guys to read. From now on, this book will receive no further updates, and I will be focusing on the development of my newest book. Thank you to all of you for the support on this book. It's really been a joy to write. I really appreciate all the support and comments as well as feedback I am receiving. I will be sure to continue writing more stories in the future. I mean, they're a really good writer, and I don't see anything wrong with it, so a new chapter is still ongoing. I ain't reading it yet. I know you guys want me to read it. I will. I definitely will. When it turns into completed, I will read it, okay? I promise you that. And if I don't see that it's completed yet, let me know, because I can't see things like that all the time. But it happens. I'm not perfect, but I will try my best if you guys ask me to. But that's up to you guys. I can't really pay attention to everything, because have you seen how many I have in my requested to read folder? That's 150 stories, and some of these are over 100 and 160 chapters long. So that's the problem. But I will continue later. This is really short, but I wanted to finish this whole thing. Thank you guys for watching. Be happy, be healthy, and always be like, bye bye.